guide and focus their work for next year. One of the ideas that came from that and that we have been talking about is for the JEDI group to sponsor a new climate survey for the entire community of Royal Oak Schools next fall. We have done that in the past, and it's time to redo that survey. So we're working on, and I believe the JEDI group is also or contributed to the review of the questions, also working with Oakland Schools, who is our partner in that project. That entire department for doing the surveys and just research and development out there they're experts in that field, and we've worked with Dr. Elizabeth Perret in the past on that, and the intention is to do the same again for next fall. Juneteenth, which is the celebration that Royal Oak Schools participated in conjunction with the city of Royal Oak, was also very successful. Many of us attended that event, and there were a lot of community members there, and I was also proud to see our diversity club from Royal Oak High School in attendance there, as well as many community partners and other folks from across the city and our Chamber of Commerce, et cetera. There were Kim Martin. Dr. Martin is a participant in the planning committee for that event with the city, and I believe they're hosting a wrap-up meeting to go back and review the event itself and already begin to make some plans and some recommendations for next year. She is also on the Human Rights Commission, and they are also meeting during the summer. So her participation in that, again, with our community partners at the City of Royal Oak, will continue. And I believe right now they're working on their creation of bylaws as an organization, and then they'll start moving forward with that. So those are just some highlights from what's going on during the summer months.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Thank you. Moving on to item 5, communications. Mrs. Anderson?
We've received 3 communications in the last couple weeks. Katie Scartelli, Joan Cutler, and Patrice Rink, all in regard to a conference attended by Dr. Martin.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 6, public comment. If you would like to make a public comment, a person may address the board on an agenda or non-agenda item by completing a note card located inside the boardroom and place the card in the basket prior to the citizen public comment period. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. If you need more time, you are offered a second opportunity to address the board at the end of the meeting with an additional 3 minutes. Please address the board as a whole and not individually. Public comment is not intended for the exchange of dialogue. This is a time for members of the public to express their views. We are paying attention to your comments and appreciate them. However, school board members do not respond to public comment during the meeting. Questions that arise from public comment shall be referred to the superintendent or their designee for review, study, and possible future response. Thank you in advance for your cooperation. I have Elaine Jerkins.
Good evening, everybody. Do I just sit here? Yeah. Is that fine? Good evening. Hi, my name is Elaine Jerkins. I am the parent of an incoming 11th grader and an incoming 9th grader. I've been a parent of Royal Oak Schools since my daughter was in kindergarten at Keller, so for 11 years. Keller has the PYP program, and I was delighted when she was in 1st grade. Instead of doing Christmas celebrations, we did Diwali, we did Hanukkah, we did many winter holidays. And that was my introduction to sort of the diversity, equity, inclusion of Royal Oak Schools. Before we even called it that, that's just what was my introduction, but I believe. I've also been a teacher for over 25 years, and I just wanted to say thank you to the board and staff that I have not seen a school district so proactive, and I've worked in a few different school districts on this topic, and I just want to send some appreciation to the board. And I thought I'd come in person versus send a note because I live a couple blocks away. So, and we're gonna go to Dairy Queen afterward. Strike that from the record. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a note, Julia Malone.
Hi, I didn't know we were going to Dairy Queen after. My name is Julia. I am going into 11th grade at Royal Oak High School, and as my mom said, I've been in Royal Oak School since I was 5. I'm proud to be a part of Royal Oak High School's Model UN, drama club, and marching band, and I do, as Superintendent Fitzpatrick mentioned, I have attended numerous diversity club meetings in the past, and I volunteered at some of their events. And being in Royal Oak Schools has taught me so much about diversity, equity, and inclusion. When I was in 5th grade, part of Keller Elementary's IB program is that we do an exhibition where they basically teach kids about global issues and then have them come up with a way to show the public. And my issue was refugees. So I wrote a skit about the refugee crisis in Syria, like as a 10-year-old, and then I presented it to an audience of many different adults and kids my age, and it was really, really cool, and it's something that not a lot of school districts have, like in addition to the IB program, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion program that really just helps make everything about the IB program stand out and the DEI program stand out. Like, they complement each other, and it's been a really good educational experience for me in these past 11 years.
Thank you. I have Rachel Chidino. I apologize if that's incorrect.
Close, it's Curianu. My name is Rachel Curianu, and I first want to say that I do appreciate all of you, the fact that we're here on a beautiful summer night and we're talking indoors. But I have something on my heart that I need to talk about. So I have 2 boys that are in the district going into 7th and 9th grade. And I want to talk about the article, Daily Mail article that was published on June 19th. With the part of the title saying, quote, Midwest teachers trade tips on subversively and quietly transitioning kids without telling their parents. So I emailed Superintendent Fitzpatrick as a concerned parent, and she responded with, quote, the conference that Dr. Martin attended was not for the purpose for discussing ways to hide information from parents and was indicated in the article. Instead, it's a national organization with the purpose of educating professionals about how to be supportive of all students, end quote. So while that may be the case, that this is what the conference was targeted for, it doesn't address the fact that if Dr. Martin was discussing or brainstorming on how to help transitioning students keep hidden from their families. Unless the article's text is complete defamation, which is it? Did they 100% lie about all these things? If the article isn't lies, I think it's simply stating that the district doesn't have policies regarding secretively helping kids transition is not good enough, and perhaps we're avoiding talking about what happened. I think that we can all assume that both teachers and parents both want the same for our children and students. We both want them to be happy and successful. And when kids face challenges or confusing times, it's so important for them to have adults that can advocate, mentor, and guide them. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate the teachers for all the dedication they have to their jobs. I am all about teachers and administration facilitating discussions and meetings for children with their parents to bring up subjects that may be difficult for kids to discuss. However, I think it's far, far, far reaching when administration goes to conferences to brainstorm and discuss ways to hide things from parents. That is it. Thank you.
Thank you. Patrice Rink.
Hi, my name is Patrice Rank. I'm a resident, grandparent, and guardian of a student in the Royal Oak District. I was at the last Board of Education meeting to express my distrust regarding the email from Superintendent Fitzpatrick mentioning the DEI coordinator, Dr. Kimberly Martin. I do not take being a guardian lightly, and for that responsibility to be trumped in later years to come in the school system. Directly after the meeting, Superintendent ran up to me to make sure she had the correct contact information and expressed that she would be in contact with me shortly. That did not happen. I had to reach out to her with my questions, and she did not answer to my satisfaction. I asked if she had listened to the conference and wanted to see if Dr. Martin had said, we're working with our record-keeping system so that certain screens can't be seen by the parents if there's a nickname in there that we're trying to hide. Fitzpatrick stated that the captions were over her mouth and she was unable to confirm. She said, I can't speak to the Daily Mail or any other publication that claims to have information from the conference, but I noticed that they have taken down what was claimed to be closed captioning. I asked if there were any hidden screens in any of the record-keeping systems. She said MyStar didn't have any hidden screens. That's great, but I asked what other record-keeping systems that may feed into MyStar that could contain secrets. You know, the stuff you hide from parents that Dr. Martin was quoted as saying? I sent Fitzpatrick this transcript and recorded snippet from the conference. At that moment, all communication stopped. Why? Because the article in the Daily Mail that was written was true. I have the entire recorded conference and transcript if anyone wants to hear it or read it. The conference was about how to hide information from a parent and how to essentially break the law. There's a comment from an attendee who states what you can do, which means abide the law, and what you should do, which means skirt the system. The conference was sponsored with federal money. I left a voicemail message for Paula Sutterfield and asked if there were any policies, links, statutes that state that you do not need to inform a parent if they have a child who wants to change identity or their pronouns. Guess what? Those policies don't exist. And they don't exist in any other school district. I looked that up too. But there are school districts who will keep secrets, and I do know of a few. As you can tell, Dr. Martin did say there were hidden screens and how to keep secrets. And now I want to know how much we're paying the DEI coordinator. My tax dollars pay her salary, and yours, $288,000. You sent an email out, now follow up with the parents that what happened and what repercussions Dr. Martin will face to bring the issue full circle. And stay tuned, this will be getting a lot more attention. Think national. And there will be a lot more parents who agree with me who are afraid to speak up because they fear their child will be retaliated against.
Excuse me, can you wrap up?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
I will. Residents and parents in the Royal Oak District, don't forget 2024 is an election year and there will be 4 seats up for grabs. Royal Oak didn't even make the top 25, not even the top 50. Is it due to the current Board of Education? Take the time to research those running, attend meetings, stream it live, or go to YouTube and watch past meetings, get involved. And to close this out, I'm gonna say Benjamin Franklin said, if we all think alike, then nobody's thinking. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Fitzpatrick?
Right. I just wanted to, President Van Heitzer, just remind you that they are referring to, and there were some references to a letter sent out to families regarding what we do. And I'll reiterate again, we do not have policies or practices to hide information from students. We do not transition or assist students in transition in any kind of secret processes within this district. Our priority continues to be to work directly with families on these sensitive topics, as has been mentioned. So just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item 7, consent agenda. We have 7.1, personnel changes, 7.2, payment of expenses. Do we have any additions or deletions? Consent agenda is approved by consensus. Moving on to item 8, payment, matters for discussion action, 8.1, superintendent, Mrs. Fitzpatrick.
So my update this evening just includes some additional information. If you'll recall, at our last board meeting, we talked about our long-range planning process that is taking place, which will result in a strategic plan for the district. Tonight, I'm just highlighting 2 of the slides that we talked about. One is looking ahead for the work that we are currently doing in the summer. One is we need to work with the mission and vision statements as they currently appear for the district, and then consider the suggestions and input from our stakeholder group that we've been working with for just about a year now. We want to create our values statements kind of based on who we are. So Many of the things that you'll see within the strategic plan or that are proposed for that strategic plan final document do include best practices that we already have in place in the district. And I really believe that through putting it in print for all of our parents and stakeholders to understand, as well as our staff to understand, that gives us a chance to be held accountable for those and also be able to point back to those for future decisions by all of our departments. We will fully review the rest of the feedback from our stakeholder survey. We asked folks to take a look at the language of the goals, the vision statements, mission statements, and the strategies and action plans, and give us feedback. So we're going to take a look at all of those. Our work now to continue the process itself for the strategy document is to understand what timeline we will operate under for that strategy. So for example, one of them under community-based is to increase partnerships with local community businesses and organizations. We would have a timeline by which we would like to hit that mark of increasing those partnerships, as well as the responsible party. And in that case, it would be me, because the goal for community is mine to work on. We'll finish all of those as part of our drafting this summer. And then any potential budget impact. So we didn't want to say costs to the budgets or savings. It's really about how the budget may be impacted. So maybe a project in this long-range plan might take some monies to get it off the ground. Or it is a cost neutral. There's no financial gain or loss for the program, but it is something we're committed to in other parts of our budget. That would all be reflected, and we're going to be, we're adding the detail to all of that right now. And I'm responsible for getting that all into the document while working with our administrative team and our cabinet members who are here this evening. In September, I would and am planning to present the final plan to the Board of Education for your approval. So by that time, all of the things that you see us working on this summer would be in the document for your review, my presentation to you, and your approval. Pending the approval by the board at that meeting in September, we would then, at the end of the month, in September, I will be doing a State of the Schools address and presentation, and I will present the full strategic plan out to the entire community, again, pending the outcome of your board approval in September. So any questions on that slide or timeline? All right. One of the things that we affirmed through our survey that we had with the community, both staff members in the community, all of the staff in the district had a chance to respond, as well as community members to respond, is everyone wants this to be a living, breathing document, and we also want it to be something that is regularly reported on. So from September through June, basically the school year, next year, we will establish a system to be sure that we're using our strategic plan. Part of that is really, as decisions are made or as our principals communicate to their stakeholders or we do here at the board table, we want to make sure we're pointing back to the strategic plan in some way that really just lends support for why we're making the decisions we are. Also in January, that will be a kind of a hard stop for sure, update to the board and to the community on progress to date. I anticipate that there'll be regular updates to the community and the board through our dispatch magazine or newsletter that we put out, that Mrs. Murphy puts out to the community, as well as at this table. But for sure in January, we'll do a more thorough update and review. And then also next June, we would reevaluate, adjust, make any changes or updates. And part of that may be that new things are added to the strategic plan that maybe we weren't aware of or didn't have as a need at that time, and really assess how our plan served us well for a school year, and then again, as a flexible plan, be able to add those updates. So tonight, I really wanted for your consideration just that this timeline and the work that we're proposing is something that you support moving forward, as well as give our community and you as a board some times on our calendar where we know this will definitely be updated and addressed again. So questions that you have?
Mrs. Anderson.
I was fortunate in being able to come to the meetings that we had here, but I'm wondering if you could expound a little bit on how you got community and staff input.
Sure. So one of the things that I talk about often when I speak of the long-range plan process is that it is not linear. It isn't a meeting followed by a second meeting with another group. We really had many cycles going on at the same time. So while we gathered stakeholders from the community, including staff, board members, administrators, and community members, to meet regularly, we met about once a month, if not more. I believe in October we met twice. to share information and to get it going. We had those meetings ongoing. At the same time, I went out to every single building in the district, met in the media centers with staff voluntarily after school at all of our schools to get input from them directly as part of a conversation. We've invited our community a few different times through a thought exchange, which is a tool to gather kind of thoughts and feedback from stakeholders. We had that distributed earlier in the school year, and then most recently in the spring, we had this survey to vet our next best draft. Along with that, we distributed surveys specifically to staff with some questions about how these plans impact them as a staff member, both in the classroom and as an employee. And then the board was also given an opportunity to give that feedback. We've had board workshops, and regularly we hold monthly administrative team meetings, and this is a regular topic on that as well. So many different phases and ways that we've been gaining feedback. I'm part of the Rotary Club in Royal Oak. I spoke regularly about this. We're part of the Chamber of Commerce. And of course, we have a city schools meeting where we meet about quarterly with members of the city of Royal Oak and just look at joint projects or things that we're working on. And we also made them aware that we're working on this long-range and strategic plan. I think it's, if nothing else, it helps us be clear about our goals as a district with a lot of input. And as I said, many of the things that we're working on are things that are just good practice that we have been doing as a district, and this will be an amazing opportunity to put those in print for everyone. So it's still a work in progress, and I would invite anyone from the community that would like to join us. They're welcome to send me an email and join our committee for this strategic plan as we move into the work again in the fall and through the school year.
Does anybody have any questions? And just for clarity, Ms. Fitzpatrick, upon the approval, this plan will be available on our website. The status as we move forward will also be on our website as well, correct?
Yes, so one of the things that I mentioned earlier is that the folks that gave us feedback thus far, the vast majority of those that responded, I think it was well above 80% of those that responded said they wanted it to be a living, breathing document. And likewise, everyone also wants it to be well communicated and shared widely. And so those are all things that the committee had already thought, and the survey just confirmed that for us. So yes, this will go on our website, will be prominent there, and would be a point of reference for us in our monthly newsletters.
Thank you. 8.1.2, long-range planning resolution. Can I have a recommendation? Mr. Jaworski?
So whereas the Royal Oak Schools is engaged in a long-range planning process, this long-range planning and direction allows the district to continue to build an educational system that is fluid, meets the needs of staff and students, and addresses issues and barriers in a timely manner, and by doing so would allow the plan to remain a living document. And whereas the long-range planning process has progressed through the development of a strategic plan, which has been communicated to the Board of Education, now there be it resolved that the Royal Oak Schools Board of Education accept the document to date and approves the continuation of the long-range planning process.
Can I have a second? Mrs. Haynes? Any discussion? Mr. Jaworski?
I just think this is a good opportunity for me to thank all of the very active members of that committee who dedicated a lot of their time. And it really shows a lot about, I think, our city and our district when we have so many parents and community members who came out with their time and their ideas and thoughts and let us know which direction they thought that we should be going.
Ms. Jasinski?
Yeah, not to restate each other too often, but I want to echo what was said by both Deb and Tim. And as one of the newest members of the board, I've appreciated being part of this process and meeting community members and stakeholders along the way, because it's given me a chance to look at all of the things that we do to really showcase the things that we can be really proud of as a district, and to know where I can make connections and talk up relationships and all those types of opportunities. But as well as I think that this recommitment, right, through this process to really say over and over. I know we sound like crazy about how many times we want to say that this is a living and active document, but it's just, I think it's clear that it's just so important to us, and that aspect of it is really important. I think it shows a commitment to our students that we encourage them to be growth-minded and forward-thinking, and always thinking about ways that they can improve and change their own education and practice. And if we don't reflect that back to them, right, that we're not living what we preach. And so I think this is it's been a great opportunity to do that, and I'm really excited about the ways that we've been brainstorming, like you said, to not just put this on a shelf, but to really stay committed to the process and try and live up to the standards that we're setting for ourselves. So I'm just proud of what we've done so far.
Mrs. Fitzpatrick.
I did fail to mention, as part of answering Mrs. Anderson's question, that we also involved our students as our key stakeholders in this process, and it was age appropriate. In some of the buildings, their student senate went ahead and asked questions of the 4th and 5th graders, and they gave me written responses of how to improve the schools, or what they think schools of the future might look like. I think I've shared before, at least one student said everyone would be allowed to have phones. I think that was probably a personal note from that student to remind everyone of that. But they gave us some really good insight as to what the children believe schools are for, and what they enjoy about the schools, and what they like about their teaching and learning, and what they value. And then all the way up through the middle school, and then feedback from the high school, just really small groups getting together to give us that direct feedback. I will say, once the plan is more structured by the fall, it will give me a greater opportunity to solicit specific feedback from the students regarding each of the goal areas. So I'm looking forward to that piece as well.
Thank you. Mrs. Cook.
I just wanted to say how much I enjoyed working with community members, parents, educators. I really appreciated all of the hard work that went into creating this iteration of the document. I appreciated all of the different perspectives that were gained, and thank everybody who participated in the committee, who answered a survey, who contributed in any way, and welcome more input as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Anderson, can we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Jaworski.
Yes.
Trustee Alexander.
Yes.
Trustee Van Heitzma.
Yes.
I will vote yes. Trustee Haynes.
Yes.
Trustee Jasinski.
Yes.
Trustee Cook.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to 8.2, curriculum and instruction. Dr. Ioannis?
Thank you, Mrs. Van Heitzma. Excuse me. A couple updates tonight. One will be on our ELA elementary pilot, and then another summer learning update. So before we get too deep into the presentation, just a quick reminder of ELA. When we hear that word or that phrase ELA, we're really talking about literacy, so anything that has to do with reading, writing, listening, or speaking. And a little background information before we get into where we're at in this process. We had previously planned to start the ELA pilot process this school year, but we took a step back. We had a new Math Bridges program and resource for our elementary teachers at the start of this year, and they're still working through that, or they worked through that throughout the year. So we didn't feel it was appropriate to place an ELA pilot onto our elementary teachers this year as well. It also gave us a chance to regroup, coming new into the position and having some other people kind of come in at the same time. We wanted to take a step back and really create a curriculum review process that provides teachers with more input and provides teachers with more time to use and analyze the resources before we even began the pilot process. So I just wanted to give that background information before we started. Part of what our ELA leadership team wants to do is, our vision really is to find a way to identify the appropriate resource and curriculum that's going to support and meet as many needs as we can for our Royal Oak students, or for our students here in Royal Oak. As you can see from the presentation or from the slide, we have 19 people on this ELA leadership pilot team and committee, representing teachers from all 6 elementary buildings and teachers in grades DK all the way up to 5th grade. So we really are excited about this this plan and this process. We also have some plans to incorporate occupational therapists, psychologists, and some other ancillary staff as well once we get rolling into the process. Really, the main focus is 3 components of this multi-year process. It's going to consist of 3 phases: a research phase, a resource phase, and an implementation phase. What we'll do on the following slides is just talk a little bit about each of those phases, and then you'll see some timelines on there to help us get a better understanding of the next steps. So starting in the fall, so September 2023, all the way through March 2024 is going to be the research phase. Now during this time, the ELA pilot team will really be focusing on identifying a vision for our district around literacy. So we're going to do some analysis to take a look at some district data that we have, not just assessment data, but also data at looking at some of the resources that we use, some rubrics, some of the plans and procedures that we have in place around literacy. You want to take a close look at those. Also during this fall time, we're going to reestablish our district goals and values around literacy, and also just kind of double check to make sure that we're still going to be aligned with state and national standards. That's going to take us really up to March 2024. Now the next phase is an exciting phase. I believe teachers will enjoy this phase. We're going to start February 2024, and it's going to go really to June 2025. In this resource phase, we're going to begin to first identify the proper evaluation tool to use when we're looking at collecting a set number of resources and then finding ways to evaluate those resources. Part of the plan that we have is during this phase is to recommend materials that we would pilot the following school year. So by April 2024, we will definitely have identified the pilot programs and the structures, and then we will begin the pilot process starting September 2024. And our hopes and plans will be to land on a final recommendation to our Board of Education, March 2025, so that's kind of the resource phase. The implementation phase, now we're looking at March 2025 and ongoing. So as we implement the new materials and the new resources, we're definitely going to have to review and assess along the way. We want to make sure that we're providing teachers with ongoing professional development that is tied to that resource. And we just want to make sure we're also giving teachers opportunities to reflect with each other throughout that pilot year and actually beyond. Now we're talking about implementation, so we want to still give teachers a chance to review, discuss, and talk about that implementation process and phase. This is an important slide. I think this is when we took a step back again and met with our leadership team this year. We wanted to make sure that teachers would be able to have 2 to 3 programs piloted in each school. We also wanted to make sure that teachers would be able to pilot 1 program for the entire year. Some districts in the past have given teachers opportunities to pilot multiple programs within a school year, maybe at 6 to 8 week sessions. And I think that becomes a little difficult when teachers can't have the entire year to really get in depth with that program. And we really want to have 2 teachers in the same building and the same grade level piloting the same program. We're going to create intentional opportunities for collaboration around the selected piloted resource for that entire school year. And then throughout the piloting year, again, we're going to have teachers meeting through release time, maybe through some, maybe not so much late start PD, more release time where we're going to pull the teachers out and give them time, again, during that pilot time to review and monitor some of that progress. So that is just a quick update on that process. But before I go to the summer learning update, I wanted to just give anybody a chance to see if they had, or check to see if anyone had questions on anything regarding that structure.
Just out of curiosity, for the piloting, are the teachers, do they volunteer for it, or how do you determine who does that?
Yeah, great question. So it's on a volunteer basis, and as you can see from the numbers, we had many elementary teachers excited to take on this process, and the feedback that we got is that they were also appreciative that we took a step back this year. We even pulled back some pilot materials that were sent out to the buildings in the fall, and we pulled them back just to reassure teachers that we needed to take another step back and dig deeper into it.
Ms. Uszynski?
Is Oakland Schools helping us with the program?
Yeah, definitely. Oakland Schools is going to be a big part of this process as well. We have some people that we've connected with, consultants, literacy consultants that are going to support throughout this process.
Well, I know we talked about this a bit at curriculum committee, and I appreciate the fact that we put a pause and said, you know, a better way to roll this out and do this evaluation is, you know, longer term and allow the pilot to take as long as, you know, we need it to and have the appropriate assessment. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. So the next quick short update, we're in the middle of our summer learning session. So session 1 completed today. This is for elementary students and also actually middle school students. So students K through 8 completed their first session of summer learning, and we have some pictures here. I'll kind of cycle through just so you can see. The next session, session 2, starts for, again, DK all the way to 8th grade, starts July 17th, and we'll go till August 3rd. So I just wanted to share some pictures here of students working through some of the robotics programs that we had at the middle school. And then also, we still had some math programs and math resources that were used. And I believe that picture on the left was the part of the drama club course or class where they were starting to create for their play and sketches. So I've been able to stop by to take a look at what's going on. There's a lot of excitement around the buildings. Even though they have to come to school during the summer, they're still enjoying it. I think it's a nice 8:30 to 11:30 time frame, so it's not taking up the entire day, and they're still getting a chance to engage in some meaningful learning opportunities. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you very much. 8.3, Finance, Facilities, and Bond, Mrs. Abella.
Good evening. My computer's been very busy this evening. Okay. So the state passed their budget, the state of Michigan. We used the same slide for May and June for many of our meetings throughout our budget planning. So our budget, our original budget for the 23-24 school year was passed at the end of June, and we had to proceed even though the state budget was not yet completed. So I've kind of brought back that slide that we used throughout the spring, showing some of the items that we used. The first column is the what funding source. The second column is what the previous recommendations were from the governor, the House, and the Senate, and left that information there so you could see the 3 different branches and what their recommendations were. The next column is the state budget. So that is what they did finally land on, and how's that's impacted by our 5,000 students is in the next column. So that final state budget impact is by our 5,000 students. And then the original budget as of 6/30/2023 is what we passed in June. So just to give you an idea of how this slide is set up. So foundation grant increase. So that is what the foundation allowance is, the amount we get per pupil. And what the state budget landed on was the $458. So our revenue will increase $2.29 million. Now, during our budget process, we included the $458. That's what we made as our best guess when we were planning our budget. So we have $2.29 million included in our budget. The 30D is expanded breakfast and lunch program. And while that isn't something that affects our general fund, it does affect our food service fund. And I thought it was an important thing to highlight to families that going forward, for the next school year at least, because the state budget is for 1 year, all meals for students, breakfast and lunch, will be free in the cafeteria. It is now a layering of the federal free and reduced lunch program along with this new expanded breakfast and lunch program offered by the state of Michigan. MIP Serves Reserve Fund was an important item. We want to make this the stabilization of the retirement fund of district employees. Once again, it's not something that affects the general fund, but sometimes it winds up as that retirement rate goes up. So it was an important aspect that was included in the state budget. 51E is our special education. They changed the way that special education was funded last year a little bit. We were funded at 75% of each special ed FTE. So each student specifically around the supports that they receive. And we were funded at 75%. New year, this is really good win, 100% per special ed FTE. So that's going to be an increase to our budget of $445,350 next year. We did not include this increase in our budget. So when I go to do our first amendment, which will be approved by the Board of Education probably in December, unless there's some other reason we feel we want to do it earlier, we will be increasing our revenue by $445,000. And then 31A is something that just this last school year, sorry, I'm kind of working on audit, so I'm still kind of this year is last year and last year is next year and kind of got that going on. So 31A, just this last year was the first time we were fully funded for 31A. Previously, because we are a hold harmless district, we did not receive the full funding. So this has also gone up. The target range for how 31A is funded has also increased, and that's going to be an increase to our budget of $140,000. So of these items, the final state budget impact has Royal Oak Schools revenue increasing $2.87 million. We included in our budget $2.29 million, so I would expect just for these items, because there are some other items that are going to impact our budget. There's some really good stuff for teachers going back to school. There's some incentives, things like that, that will also impact our staff, but I haven't included here, and we have to unpack that a little bit more yet. So we're going to expect that amendment to go up $585,000. Of course, we know this is coming, and when we plan our curriculum for this coming fall, these numbers we're going to use and know that we have those supports available. Are there any questions around the budget?
Mrs. Fitzpatrick.
So a number of these items have come up before, and we've also talked about these in our finance and facilities meetings as well with the board along the way. I just wanted to highlight that I'm pleased to see the 30D, the expanded breakfast and lunch program, and while you indicated that we layer on the federal dollars for those that receive free or reduced lunch prices typically, it is now free for all, but it is still very important that any family who would qualify for those with that free or reduced application should still continue to fill that out. And why that's important for our community is that the federal government still uses that percentage of forms and eligible families as a way to calculate other federal dollars that we receive. So I'm pleased to see the state of Michigan, go forward with this. We certainly saw the benefits of the free meals program during COVID. I'm, again, glad to see it back, but I wanted to just reiterate the importance of our families still completing those applications should it apply to them as a family.
Yes, thank you for highlighting that. If there are no other questions on the budget, I have a couple of slides about the ongoing building site sinking fund work that's going around the district. So one of the things that we have done is we are updating all our lighting across the district to LED. In instructional spaces, they have the ability to dim their dimmable switches. So on the left is a classroom that's fully lit, and on the right is one that is able to be dimmed down. There's a lot of teachers that put coverings over lights. That's not going to be necessary anymore. They're going to be able to dim the light within their classroom space on their own with this way. We have some fencing projects going on around the district. We're doing, this is a picture of Upton, which is the west side and the north side of Upton, to completely fence in that area of the school. Adams, we're doing the north side. And then Royal Oak Middle School, we're redoing the fencing around the track that we recently did during the bond work. We're doing a lot of facade work around the building. It's not, it's one of those things that you see, it's important. We need to make sure that we're protecting our assets, but it's a lot of stuff about the caulk between bricks. It's above the windows. We want to make sure we have no water seeping in between the bricks. We want to protect the facade of the buildings. So you'll probably see a lot of work going on around the district with people working around the brickwork outside. One of the big projects that's kind of going on at Royal Oak High School right now, and this is part of the food service fund, actually not building site sinking fund, is the food service dock is being completely replaced. It's been there for many years. It was beginning to crumble. It was a great opportunity to be able to go back and take care of this on the back side of Royal Oak High School. And then probably one of my favorites is the restoration of the terrazzo at Royal Oak Middle School. It's a beautiful school. It's a very well restored school. And years of use and wax on those floors has kind of diminished the color and the beauty of the original terrazzo. So this is just first floor at Royal Oak Middle School. We will work on floor 2 and floor 3 in future summers, but it's a lot of work. We have some summer school going on there, so we certainly don't want to take over the entire building. Plus, custodials got to clean, do their summer clean at there. So we got a few things going on at the building. So you can see on the left is what that looked like. You can see it's very yellowed and very dull, and on the right is it's restored to its original beauty for sure. And those are all the slides I have. Do you have any questions about that bond work? If not, I have some items on the board agenda. Okay, so 8.3.2 on tonight's agenda is a contract with Beaumont for athletic training services. We do this for athletic trainer for all sports. We use Beaumont. It's a good partnership we have within the community. It is for the $30 an hour for 1,100 hours. I did look it up. We have been with them since the fall of 2015, and they have not increased their rates since then. So this is a small increase since 2015. So for 8 years, they have held their rate completely flat. Are there any questions? Okay.
May I have a recommendation, please? Mrs. Alexander.
Resolved, the Royal Oak Schools Board of Education authorizes the superintendent to finalize and sign a contract with Beaumont Health for athletic training services.
Can I have a second? Mrs. Anderson.
There you go.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Alexander?
Yes.
Trustee Van Heitzma?
Yes.
I will vote yes. Trustee Haynes?
Yes.
Trustee Jasinski?
Yes.
Trustee Cook?
Yes.
Trustee Jaworski?
Yes.
The motion passes.
8.3.3 on tonight's agenda is a contract with Barton Mallow. We have a little bit of remaining bond funds. We're going to be doing some projects at Adams Elementary, the kitchen and the front office, and then Keller Elementary, the kitchen there as well. This is a contract for them to supervise that work. They'll help with the bidding, the securing of supplies, and then, of course, the construction work during next summer. So this is a project that will go on next summer. Are there any questions on the contract? I probably should say that all of these items that I'm bringing to your attention tonight, we have discussed in length over sometimes a variety of meetings, and then also all of them at Finance and Facilities in depth and detail. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows that this isn't something I'm just bringing up. It is certainly something we have talked about it over time.
No, certainly. Appreciate that. Can I have a resolution, please? Ms. Usinski?
Resolved, the Royal Oak School Board of Education authorizes the superintendent to finalize and sign a contract with Barton Mallow in the amount of $178,080 to provide construction management services for the kitchen renovations at Adams and Keller and office renovations at Adams Elementary and ECC.
Thank you. Can I have a second? Mrs. Haynes? Can I have a roll call, Mrs. Anderson?
Trustee Van Heitzma?
I vote yes.
I will vote yes. Trustee Haynes?
Yes.
Trustee Jasinski?
Yes.
Trustee Cook?
Yes.
Trustee Jaworski?
Yes.
Trustee Alexander?
Yes.
The resolution carries.
8.3.4 on tonight's agenda is a purchase of a Kubota. It's something that we use within maintenance, most notably with snow removal around the larger schools. This Kubota purchase is utilizing state cooperative bid pricing, and like I said, will be used within the maintenance department.
May I have a recommendation, please? Mrs. Cook?
Resolved that Royal Oak Schools Board of Education approve the purchase of one utility vehicle Kubota in the amount of $37,905.71. The purchase is being made utilizing cooperative bid pricing.
Similar to the prior comment, we had this conversation in Finance and Facilities as well, so. May I have a second? Mrs. Haynes, can I have a roll call, please?
Just as a quick note, we learned in Facilities and Finance that we put in our names to get this vehicle in October, and it's finally available. So, yes, just thought I thought that was really interesting. I had no idea. So I will vote yes. Trustee Haynes?
Yes.
Trustee Jasinski?
Yes.
Trustee Cook?
Yes.
Trustee Jaworski?
Yes.
Trustee Alexander?
Yes.
Trustee Van Heitzma?
Yes.
The motion passes.
8.3.5 is a contract agreement with Dehydro Service. They provide us with both chlorinator and corrosive water treatment. It is something to make sure that our water is safe and protects the pipes across the district. It's a long-standing relationship we've had with Dehydro, and I just wanted to highlight that and bring it to your attention for your approval.
Thank you. Just one quick, we've had, do you know how long we've had a contract? I should have asked this in Finance. It's been quite a long time, I know. It's been.
I mean, I've been with the district 12 years, and we've certainly been using them at least that long. So I would say longer.
And I know I appreciate the fact that they do the testing when there's been a lot of concerns about water, as we've heard about Flint and other areas. So,
Right, so,
I
and
definitely
yes, all of
appreciate
our
that.
water testing results can be found on the website.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Can I have a recommendation, please? Mrs. Alexander.
Resolved, the Royal Oak School Board of Education authorizes the superintendent to finalize and sign a contract with Dehydro Services Incorporated for chlorinators and corrosion water treatment services not to exceed $59,292.
Thank you. Can I have a second? Mrs. Haynes? May I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Haynes?
Yes.
Trustee Jasinski?
Yes.
Trustee Cook?
Yes.
Trustee Jaworski?
Yes.
Trustee Alexander?
Yes.
Trustee Van Heitzma?
Yes.
I will vote yes, and the motion passes.
And finally, 8.3.6, HVAC filter contract. We did go out for bid for all the filters across our 10 buildings across the district. Want to just remind everybody, we have a lot of new equipment across the district, so we want to certainly make sure, in addition to good air quality, we are protecting all of that equipment. In most cases, the filters are changed in all of these units about 3 times a year. It kind of depends a little bit on the unit itself. So we went out to bid, and our low bidder is Aero Filter for a 3-year contract. Are there any questions about that contract?
Nope, and again, we just talked about this in finance and facilities as well, so thank you very much. Can we have a recommendation, please? Mrs. Cook?
Resolved, the Royal Oak School Board of Education authorizes the superintendent to finalize and sign a contract with Aero Filter Incorporated for a 3-year contract. Year 1 in the amount of $54,007.75, Year 2 in the amount of $54,007.75, and Year 3 in the amount of $57,508 for the district's HVAC filters.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please? Mr. Jaworski? May I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Jasinski?
Yes.
Trustee Cook?
Yes.
Trustee Jaworski?
Yes.
Trustee Alexander?
Yes.
Trustee Van Heitzma?
Yes.
I will vote yes. Trustee Haynes?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Mrs. Abella, do you have anything else before
I do
move-
not, unless you have any
Okay.
questions for me. That is all I have this evening.
Nope, just checking. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to 8.4, Staff and Student Services, Mr. Walensky.
Thank you, Ms. Van Heitzma. Good evening. I have item 7.1 on tonight's consent agenda. Lists our personnel changes since we last met on June 22nd. And if you remember, I promised then it would be a much longer list of new hires, which it is. 12 to be exact tonight, which include 1 middle school counselor, 1 middle school social worker, 1 high school social worker, 1 speech and language pathologist, and 8 classroom teachers. We also have 1 new rehire, someone who retired, Patty Nellis, retired from Adams Elementary, was rehired for our summer school program, the summer learning program as presented by Dr. Ioannis. You'll also see 2 resignations. Jody Neal, a counselor at Royal Oak High School, resigned, and we're in the process of refilling that position. And then Jason Zawatsky, who's been our ASD supervisor in the special ed department for 8 years, resigned because he accepted a position as director of special education for Clarenceville Public Schools. So promotion for Jason, and we'll miss him, but we also have to fill that position. I want to say I just actually added this up today. Since the beginning of May, we have hired 32 new employees, so we've been busy, 24 of them to start in August. And last summer, I looked back at my notes, on opening day, I said we hired just over 40 people. So we'll probably have right around that same number to introduce on the first Welcome Back Day. Today, we held a second round of interviews for the Director of Athletics and Activities. We had 39 applicants for that position. We selected 8 for an initial interview, and which was narrowed down to 3. And we'll probably be inviting 1 or 2 back for a final meeting/interview next week. And then on to enrollment, it continues. It's actually pretty busy, but not all kindergarten typically. It's this time of year, it's spread across the grade levels. But since in the past week, we've enrolled 16 new children in grades kindergarten, DK, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 7th grade, 10th grade, GSRP, and Trails. So for a variety of grade levels. I always talk about our kindergarten enrollment. We're currently at 350 children enrolled for the fall for kindergarten. Last fall, we had 367, so we're down 17. And we still have time. We'll still get more enrollments in August. Developmental kindergarten, we have 73. That number's up quite a bit. That's up 26 from the 47 that were enrolled last fall. So kindergarten and developmental kindergarten combined, we are up 9 children already, which is good. That's my report for tonight, unless you have questions.
Mrs. Fitzpatrick.
Thank you. Mr. Walensky, I know we have spoken about this, and it's just really a reminder to our parent community. If they have a kindergarten student that they have started enrollment for, it is essential that they finish that enrollment to ensure that they receive the timely communications from the district for their new kindergarten student. We do begin school before Labor Day this year, so our summer is a little shorter than in the past. So in talking with your department members, I know in the last few days we have mentioned that we still have a number of students who have partially enrolled, but it is important that they complete that in time to be included as a full-time student for us next year. And we are continuing to take enrollments for any new neighbors who may move into your neighborhoods. And if they have any questions about those programs, they certainly can contact our office here.
Questions? Anybody? I think, Dr. Yohannes, can you just comment on what we did differently this year for kindergarten families as well? As far as, the additional activities.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I had to remember there for a second. But this year, we have a lot of things going on. So this year, we're very proud and excited to have a spring event for all kindergarten families and kindergarten students. Now that encompasses developmental kindergarten students and kindergarten students. So each of the 6 elementaries held a spring event of some sort, and those families and students were invited to those events, which was a nice experience. And that's an addition. In the past, we had just the fall events, so we added a spring event for those families. And in the fall, again, we have our traditional, some schools have a 1-day event, some schools have a 2-day event, but again, it's all around kindergarten welcoming. Parents will be brought in for a more direct presentation, and students will be able to visit their classrooms and meet their teachers. So that'll all take place for a couple of weeks, actually, a little bit earlier than usual. Usually be mid-August, but mid to late August, but it'll be a little bit sooner this year. But we'll have those opportunities for all families at all 6 elementary schools.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Any other questions? Thank you. Item 9, public comment. The same rules apply as for the first public comment. And I have Alexa Milko.
Hi, and I apologize for the noise out there. So I'm here to speak about Kimberly Martin and what went on at that conference. I had emailed the superintendent and was essentially dismissed and brushed off, kicked the can down the road for somebody else to speak with me. I have 3 boys. 2 of them are currently in the schools, and they both have IEPs, so they spend a lot of time with doing these special services by themselves. A lot of the individuals that I've worked with them, I trust. But when I read that article, reviewed the transcripts, and listened to it, my trust was really broken because as a taxpayer, I am paying for my children to be educated and not indoctrinated. I don't really care about anyone's political or social agenda. I want my kids to be in a safe environment where I don't feel that they are, where the parent is subverted, where things are done in secret. It's essentially predation. When you have to keep something private and secretive, then there is something wrong. I had asked in my email that I be notified of any file that may have been audited, or that all of her files be audited, any platform that she may have used to confirm and to let me know that my children were never mentioned, were never spoken to, and no name or secret name was given to them. And I was told someone would reach out to me. No one ever reached out to me. I was hesitant to speak because nobody wants their child, ostracized or retaliated against. But just hearing this, I cannot be the only parent that feels concerned. I would like to know what recourse as a parent we have to make sure this doesn't happen again. I was not a part of the hiring process, so I had no say in Ms. Martin's being hired. But she was vetted, she was approved, and she was put in that position. Now, yes, there wasn't supposed to be a leak, but thankfully there was, because it gives us an insight into the minds of the people that are impacting our children. And I would like follow-up on what is going to be done. Obviously, I cannot terminate her either, but that behavior, nobody should be speaking in private to our children. We don't even let our doctors alone in the room with our kids, and they are directly responsible to assist in our children's health. Just thank you for this opportunity, and just be waiting to, I guess, hear something for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Julia Malone?
Hi there. Once again, my name is Julia, and I'm going to 11th grade at Royal Oak High School. So I've noticed that a lot of my fellow public commentators have been referencing an article in the Daily Mail. The Daily Mail has been sued for defamation literally countless times, and it is such an unreliable source that Wikipedia literally will not let you cite it if you're trying to edit an article on Wikipedia. Teachers and school staff always want to protect kids, or the vast majority of the time, the goal of teachers and staff is to protect their students. And the vast majority of the time, they will encourage students to talk to their parents. It's really in extremely rare cases that information is being hidden, per se, from parents. And even if it was, trans kids are at risk for being homeless, they're at risk for being physically abused, they're at risk for being sexually abused, they're at risk for being psychologically abused. They are not always safe with their parents. So there's not sometimes telling people, your parents, isn't safe for you to do. The average age kids come out, according to the Trevor Project, is at 13. At 13, well, you might not, you don't fully have your brain developed, but you're still dependent on your parents, and you still trust your parents with everything in your life. And sometimes that's not safe, and it can go horribly. And it's just basically, it's a safety concern. That's my point, sorry. Teachers and staff want to protect children, and they don't, there's not malicious intentions whatsoever. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Elaine? Thank you. Jerkins, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Thank you. Good evening again, everyone. I would just like to speak as a teacher in another district, and I know teachers from many districts. I've been teaching for a long time. And what we do is, if a student comes to us and says to us at the beginning of the school year, please use this pronoun with me, please use this name with me, we honor that student. And what I'd like to also say is that we encourage the students to talk to their parents. We encourage the students maybe to facilitate a conversation with the counselor, who knows how to facilitate conversations better than we do. But for me as a classroom teacher, my number one goal is not the Spanish curriculum, which I'm saying that out loud, right? I want the kids to feel safe in my classroom and to know that they're gonna learn in my classroom, and they're not gonna learn unless they feel safe. And so I really think some of this stuff that's been whipped up into a frenzy is really a nothing. If a kid says to me, please call me this, I don't mind calling the student by that name. If that's gonna make them feel safe and make them learn in my classroom, that's my goal. So I feel like some of this is just whipped into nothing. And I've been to plenty of conferences, in person, blended conferences online, and if a snippet of something I said when I thought I was in a trusted room with other educators got taken out of context, I would be really quite upset. Because there are things that we talk about as teachers, as staff members, as educators, that aren't meant to be parsed in different ways. And it makes me really sad that a tabloid like the Daily Mail would come up with something and do this. And why come after the state of Michigan? I don't know. And why come after Royal Oak? I don't know those answers. But look into your sources, everybody. And we call it OPCVL in our language, to make sure that you're vetting the sources where you're getting your information. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Moving on to item 10, board comments and liaison report. Do we have any board comments? Well, I hope all are enjoying the summer. I am grateful to have summer opportunities that we can offer to families, free, which is always nice. And I'm glad the children, I loved seeing the photos that the students are enjoying the work they're doing, and I'm grateful to the teachers that were willing to work on those programs for the summer learning. I think that's a great opportunity. And I'm glad we enhanced some of our invitation to kindergarten families and DK families, so I'm really glad for that. And if there's no other comments, we'll move on to adjournment and consider the meeting closed. Thank you.